What's happening, everybody? I've got a good story for you today. You may or may not have seen this in the news. This one kind of pisses you off and makes you wish we were still back in the 80s or the 90s or something. There's this mom that brought her kid to the doctors, brought one kid to the doctors. Another son who was 10 years old decided to go for a walk down the street. I'm going to play this video for you, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about all the fun shit we did when we were kids. Here you go.
The moment Brittany Patterson was arrested for letting her 10-year-old son walk into town by himself.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
And how was I recklessly endangering my child?
We're not talking about it.
On October 30th, Patterson said she took one of her children to the doctor. In the meantime, her son, Soren, who since turned 11, decided to walk less than a mile into town from their home in rural Mineral Bluff, Georgia. While out, Patterson got a call from the sheriff's department, worried that Soren was walking alone.
I wasn't concerned. I wasn't, panicking or concerned because it's just a short walk from our house. He knows how to get home. He knows how to get there.
Authorities dropped Soren off at home, and 5 hours later, they returned.
Call mommy and tell them they're taking you to jail because you decided to walk down the street.
Let go of your hands. That's not his fault.
Yeah, call mommy.
You're the mother. That's your responsibility.
Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store. So.
It is when they're 10 years old.
Patterson was booked on suspicion of reckless conduct, a charge that could carry 1 year in jail. The warrant claiming she willingly and knowingly did endanger the bodily safety of her juvenile son.
Our criminal justice system is built on the fact that you did something or you were negligent. You did something criminally negligent. So what is it she did?
Authorities have offered to drop the charge if Patterson signs a safety plan that includes the use of a GPS tracker on her son's phone. But she refuses to sign it or admit doing anything wrong.
Good. I just felt like I couldn't sign that, and that in doing so would be agreeing that there was something unsafe about my home or something unsafe about my parental decisions, and I just don't believe that.
Brittany Patterson is out on bail, awaiting to see if prosecutors will indict her on the reckless conduct charge.
The fact that she has to be out on bail for this is ridiculous. So much bullshit in this story. It's like the kid's 10. My wife and I were Beth and I were just talking about this a minute ago. It's around, we have a pretty good sized neighborhood that we live in, but around one of the larger blocks is a mile. We used to do it during the pandemic. Right during the pandemic, I have every inch of this place kind of mapped out. I know pretty much how far to go or how far everything is. And I have a puppy that I try not to walk too far or too little or whatever, so I know exactly how far to go. A mile is not far. Excuse me. And it was less than a mile for this kid that was walking to the convenience store. It makes you fucking sick that the cops are going to show up at your house because your kid went for a walk to the convenience store, probably with like $5 in his hand, right? Or in his pocket. He had a cell phone on him. What's unsafe about that? Unless those cops suck and they can't manage the criminals in that area, because this mom is not a criminal. Fuck you if you think she is, right? You may be a helicopter parent, but your kid's going to turn into a pussy if you keep doing that. That's just the way life is, right? It's kind of like, just is. Sorry. The shit we did when we were kids, going out for bike rides, going out and playing in the woods, like for hours and hours and hours. Remember when come home by the time the street lights come on, or when the street lights come on, you better be home. Remember that? That was a thing. That was real. And then we go back out afterwards because normally street lights are like dinner time kind of thing, 5-ish, 6 o'clock, depending on where you live. But this is just absolutely the law enforcement in that area overstepping their bounds, trying to say, and the legal system there trying to say that she's a bad mom. Are you fucking kidding me? No, it's not. It's just not. I was thinking back through some of the things that I did as a kid. I remember one time, and this is back in the 80s. My mom since dead, so she didn't know any of this. So, Mom, sorry about this. There was this tunnel, and it was like a culvert, but it was like a 6 foot tall one, or at least I thought it was. Probably It's probably like 4 feet, but I was short back then. I'm short now. And we used to walk from one end to the other. And it was probably a good half mile. It felt forever. But by the time you got into the middle, you couldn't see light at either end. So how did we overcome those things? We didn't have flashlights. We were like 7 when we did these things. My brother was a little older than me. Both my brothers were a little older than me. But we did it with all the neighborhood kids. We'd kind of stack up, walk line and line and line. But before we did that, we would go to like this apartment complex. Probably don't do this, kids, if you're watching this, which I probably don't think you're going to. And we would ask for matches. I would say, hey, my mom needs some matches. Do you mind giving me some matches? And the little lady would look at me, or whomever it was would look and be like, yeah, sure, hang on a second, and give me some matches. And then what we would do is we would walk through that tunnel burning matches as we go, right? That was adventure. I'm not saying that's the type of adventure your kids should probably do. That was probably a little bit crazy, right? But we did shit like that. We built tree forts out in the forest with old rusty nails. We got cut, we got scratched, we got banged up, smacked our thumbs with hammers. Even if we had hammers, we'd use other pieces of wood, right? Things like that we did. That's why we are the way we are, man. And now you're going to arrest the mother of a 10-year-old that was walking to the convenience store. I remember one time, this kind of came back in a flashback because of this. I lived in Oregon. We lived in a mobile home park up in Kaiser, Oregon when I was a kid. When I was little. And I'm talking like maybe 7, something like that. And I'm not saying my parents were perfect or they did anything wrong or anything like that. I just grabbed my bicycle and rode out to the main street and rode down to 7-Eleven. Which was probably on a really busy road. I remember it being a pretty busy road because I had 2 quarters and I wanted to play a video game. And then I got back on my bike and I rode back home. Nobody ever knew about it. I knew I was probably going to get in trouble if I ever got caught, but I never got caught. But that's kind of the adventuring things of like doing kids stuff. Like you push your boundaries within reason. And I know it's a different time. Was it safer back then? I don't know, man. We got the internet now, but back then we had Jeffrey fucking Dahmer too. So whatevs, right? And you do those types of things. But this kid didn't do anything wrong. His mom didn't do anything wrong, right? I got her back on this 100%. I mean, if the kid was like notoriously doing something wrong, like, or consistently doing, like, he's out there, throwing rocks at windows or doing something shitty, then yeah, of course, like, pick the kid up. But it doesn't sound like that. It just sounds like he was going to the store. So like they say, there's always 3 kind of sides of the story. There's mom's side, the police's side, and then the truth. Well, the truth is that kid was just taking a walk down the convenience store while his mom was bringing his brother or sister to the doctors, right? Eat shit. Other fun things that people did. I just pulled this up a little while ago. Road sledding. You remember that? That was a fun thing that we had a snowstorm back 2 years ago here in Texas. And basically you take a piece of plywood, you drill a hole in it, you tie a rope to the piece of plywood, and then you hook it up to the bumper of your truck. And then you drag kids around the neighborhood. We had like 8 inches of snow here one time, and they were doing that. Right? They were going slow, but still it was fun. But that's going to be a core memory for them saying, I live in South Texas, San Antonio, Texas. And my dad drove me and my friends around the neighborhood going super slow because everything was iced over and everything, right? My buddy and I rode down a steep road together on a bicycle with the speedometer hit 70 miles an hour, wearing only a t-shirt, shorts and a t-shirt, no helmets, or protective equipment. If we had a blowout or I lost control, we'd be dead. Yeah, that is true. That is part of life. I ate shit going down a hill outside my house in North Carolina on my skateboard. Got speed wobbles super bad when I was a little kid. Ate shit. Still got a scar on my back from 30-something years ago. Car surfing, Teen Wolf style. I didn't do that, but I definitely had friends that did that, where you're on top of the car and They're hauling ass. This article says, I remember being able to go to the store with purchase cigarettes for my parents. Just had to show them my permission slip. That was real. I remember stores used to sell cigarettes for a dime on the counter. I used to borrow my older brother's car while they were sleeping and drive all over the place. Eventually got caught spanking of a lifetime. Yeah, of course. In the 90s, in my hometown, this person said we would dump gas in the rural roads around my area, light them on fire. All right, that's a bit much, right? I tried not to be like, I'm not gonna be doing that shit. Our grandfather would allow us to pick off squirrels and rats gnawing at his barn doors with a Ruger 22 long rifle. That's how you grow up. Grandpa teaches you shit like that, and that is called a life lesson. That is something that you can use and on a regular basis. Ruger 22 long rifle, it's a pellet gun's not much less, As a 12-year-old, a kid in the early 80s, we used to get an old truck tire, sit in them, and then we'd be pushed down the highway, right? So I don't know how they would do that, but I think mean like a hill or something like that. But there's a million of these fucking stories, right? Like everybody played with, well, at least in my day, the pussification of America is kind of coming, happening. So, lawn darts, jarts, if you will. There was all of those, jumping off bridges, going and swimming in ponds that you probably shouldn't be swimming in, going on those epic bike rides with all your friends, like for hours and hours and hours, intentionally trying to get lost in the woods is still one of my favorite things to do. Because you generally know where you are. And I'm not talking go out to the mountains and get lost in the woods. I'm talking with like in an area, there's this place called White's Lane in Hampton, New Hampshire. And if you're familiar with that, we used to have bonfires and, drink beers and hang out there as we got older. But as a littler kid, when I first moved there, I used to mountain bike out there and do all sorts of shit. We'd have all sorts of adventures out there. But it's been around for a million years. And it's in this kind of like in between these neighborhoods. So you knew streets over here. You can only go so far, right? But you kind of try and find new trails and do different things. That's part of being a kid. Walking on train tracks. Don't get hit by the train though. Pay attention. All of these things. This mom didn't do shit wrong. She didn't. Nor did her kid. And they should throw all of this out and just let it be. And, arguably, I think she should file a lawsuit against the city or the town, whatever it is. That's my take. That's just Greg on this one. Go out, subscribe to the Bars Open channel with Beth and Greg. You can check us out on iTunes and Spotify and all the places. Also check out Fox News, where we are dropping all of our RSS feeds, going out to that pretty quick here. You can also find all sorts of other podcasts out on the Fox News feed as well. So things like, Eric Tanzi's out there who does Failure to Stop podcast. Plus there's a whole bunch of others. So go out there, enjoy that. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.